What's this? A letter for me.
Welcome to another episode of Remember the Great Sports Through the Mail Thursdays. Today I'm going to share with you 3 envelopes that I recently received. So let me just tear right into these and see what we got. Alright, this first one is from former NBA coach / player Kevin Loughery on 1, 2, 3, and 4. And again, I don't know if his name is pronounced Loughery or Loughery. I don't know if the GH is silent or not. This card actually misspelled his name and added a T, so I don't even know what that's about. But so let me tell you a little bit about Kevin Loughery, and we'll go from there. So Kevin Loughery played in an era where the NBA wasn't as popular as all the other major sports, such as baseball and football. But originally was drafted by the Detroit Pistons and spent, 13th pick in the second round in 1962 by the Pistons. He spent 1 season with the Pistons. He was then traded to the Pistons to the Baltimore Bullets from 1963, and he was more or less the point guard for the Bullets for about 9 seasons, give or take. Never made an all-star team. However, the guy did average in a couple seasons in 68, 69, 69, 70, he averaged over 20 points a game as a point guard, which is pretty impressive. After his tenure with the Bullets, he was then traded to the 76ers. He spent a couple seasons with the Sixers after his time with the Bullets, and then retired. So in total, he averaged 15.3 points per game. He was a shooting guard / point guard, so I wouldn't call him just a point guard. But, he was a shooting guard, obviously, a scorer. But 15 points a game, and like I said, in a couple seasons, averaged over 20 a game as the shooting guard for the Baltimore Bullets. After his playing career, he got into coaching, as you can see. However, I want to say he was one of the first coaches of the Miami Heat. I don't know if he was the first. As you can see, he coached the Bulls for a brief period of time. That would have been during the Michael Jordan, or right during the Michael Jordan era. His most success, though, as a coach came in the ABA when he was the coach of the ABA champion New York Nets in 1974 and 76. That would have been the team that featured Dr. J, among many others, during their careers in the ABA. His success in the ABA didn't necessarily translate to success in the NBA. His overall numbers as a coach, he actually has a losing record in the NBA. However, his biggest success was winning the championship, the ABA championships, with the New York Nets 2 times, and that would probably consider him to be the best Nets coach of all time for that very reason, because the Nets have yet to match that illustrious championship banner in the NBA. So until that time, I would have to go with Kevin Loughery as probably the greatest Nets coach of all time, only because he won 2 ABA championships there. But this guy played during an era where the NBA just wasn't as popular as it is now. Somebody like this now, averaging almost 15 points for his career, would be a long-time NBA player, which he was a long-time player and coach. So many years of time in both the coaching and the playing ranks. Thank you, Mr. Loughery. All right, so this next one is from another great NBA player from that era, and that is Tom Van Arsdale on 1, 2, and 3. And after I realized I sent these, I don't know why I didn't send the team photo from the Hawks. I'm pretty sure I have it, you know, with the whole team. I've shown those in some other videos, but oh well. Anyway, Tom Van Arsdale. You may know the name Van Arsdale because his brother Dick Van Arsdale is his identical twin, and he was a longtime Phoenix Sun. You know, one of the best Phoenix Suns players ever to play. But Tom grew up in Indianapolis, where he and his brother both went to high school. He played his college basketball at Indiana University, you know, for the Hoosiers. He was originally drafted by the Detroit Pistons. After a few seasons with the Pistons, he was traded to the Cincinnati Royals, which is where he was probably most noteworthy for playing. The Cincinnati Royals are a non-existent team anymore. The history of the Royals was they moved from Cincinnati to Kansas City / Omaha and became the Kansas City Kings, and then the Kansas City Kings moved to present-day Sacramento, the Sacramento Kings. As a Cincinnati Royal, he made 3 All-Star teams. He averaged over 22 points a game twice in his career, those All-Star seasons. His other All-Star season, he averaged 19 a game. He played small forward and shooting guard, so he was a scoring forward / shooting guard. After his time with the Cincinnati Royals, he then became a Philadelphia 76er, as you see here. After his time with the Sixers, he went on to play for the Atlanta Hawks. He did not make All-Star teams with them, but he still had very respectable numbers. You know, overall for his career, he averaged 15 points a game. Again, a very underrated player for his time period, both him and his brother, as a matter of fact. You know, one of the best college players to ever play the game. But the cool thing is, in his final season, he joined the 1976-77 Phoenix Suns, and he was reunited with his brother for 1 season, Dick Van Arsdale, and he retired after the 76-77 season. So he did fulfill his dream. He got to play in the NBA with his brother for 1 season. However, after that season, he decided to hang it up, and that was it. But thank you, Mr. Van Arsdale. 3-time NBA All-Star. I might take a look at maybe tracking down some cards of your brother. I think it'd be very neat to have cards signed by both of you in my collection. Probably, maybe some of the viewers can correct me, but probably one of the most successful identical twins ever to play a major sport. Do you guys know of any other identical twins? And I'm not talking about brothers, I'm talking about identical twins that have played sports. I can think of the O'Brien brothers. However, they weren't too successful as professionals, not in baseball at least. So if you guys can think of any other identical twins, you know, definitely throw a name out there and let me know in the comments. So thank you, Mr. Van Arsdale. All right, we got one final one here. Oh, very happy to get this one back. And this is another player from that era. This is just one of those guys that wins. No matter, this guy either was that great of a player or just that lucky of a guy where he had the opportunity to play on some great teams, and no matter where he went, he won. So that person is Mr. Keith Erickson on 1, 2, 3, and a 4th UCLA college card with the national champions. So Keith Erickson, this is one of those players that you just don't know much about. So hopefully if you guys watch my channel here, I kind of introduce you to Mr. Erickson for the first time, and you'll recognize how much of an athlete this guy really was. Now, I'm going to start with his collegiate days and we'll work our way forward. He was on 2 NCAA championship teams with the UCLA Bruins, okay? And the UCLA Bruins, this is before the Lou Alcindor or Bill Walton era, he was one of the main guys along with Gail Goodrich that was on that team. I may consider sending this card to Gail Goodrich as well and asking him to sign it now that Erickson signed it. Maybe a couple of other guys if I do my research. But he was on the 64 and 65 championship team. I'm looking at his Wikipedia page, and not only was he a great basketball player, but he also played some baseball for UCLA. And in addition to that, he went to the 1964 Olympics, but not for basketball. That's the crazy part about this. Keith, or Mr. Erickson, was on the 1964 men's volleyball team in the Olympics. He wasn't on the basketball team, so he went as an Olympian a different way, which I thought was pretty cool. And again, this is Wikipedia, so you can't believe everything that you read, but one of the remarks said on Wikipedia was, Coach John Wooden would later remark that Erickson was the finest athlete he ever coached. What? John Wooden said this guy was the finest athlete he has ever coached. Now, if you will think of the history of UCLA, wow, and all the people that John Wooden coached, he says this guy was the best athlete he ever coached. And I don't know if that's true, but maybe he just means the durability and flexibility to play multiple sports, you know, his natural born athletic ability. I don't know. Well, after he finished his career in college basketball, naturally the next step was to play pro. He was drafted in the 3rd round by the San Francisco Warriors, which, you know, are now the Golden State Warriors. However, he only played a season there before he was drafted in the expansion draft by the Chicago Bulls. The Chicago Bulls then later traded him to the Los Angeles Lakers. Well, with the Lakers, he never really was a primary guy on any of the teams that he played on in the NBA. However, with the Lakers, he was in the right place at the right time, again, getting to come home to play in Los Angeles, and he won a championship with the Lakers. This would have been the team with Wilt Chamberlain that won the championship, Gail Goodrich, Jerry West, Pat Riley was also on that NBA championship team. So Erickson was just one of those guys that, because of his great athletic ability, he was able to play on winners. After his time with the Lakers, he then did spend some time with the Suns, as depicted on that card. But overall, you know, this is one of the greatest athletes ever to play basketball, whether it's at the collegiate level or what have you. I think that's a pretty big honor for John Wooden to say that you're the best athlete he'd ever coached. So thank you, Mr. Erickson. Thank you, Mr. Van Arsdale, for signing. And thank you, Mr. Loughery, as well, for signing those cards. All three of you guys are underrated basketball players. You know, some of the greats that played during the era of basketball that just wasn't all that popular. I thank you guys for joining me for another episode. I look forward to your comments below.